So, welcome everybody. This is my Substack series, Musings on Magazines, the story behind the story. And I'm Estelle Erasmus. I am the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, the host of the podcast about writing and craft, Freelance Writing Direct. I'm a former magazine editor-in-chief, and I'm currently working on a narrative nonfiction project wrapped around memoir, reporting, and cultural critique of my years as both a magazine editor and a dating expert called The Dating Diva, selling the messages that I also took in myself, and the story is around that time. And it's reflections on today. So I want to, without further ado, I would love to introduce my guest today because we're talking about behind the beauty pages. And my guest is Ramy Gafni. And he started his career in the beauty industry out of dropping out of law school in New York City and moving to Sydney to attend beauty school. He says, my career as a makeup artist took off fast, returning to New NYC, and I somehow became the go-to eyebrow expert. He's being very modest. He's the eyebrow expert extraordinaire. I started Ramy Cosmetics after getting fired from my job as a makeup director while undergoing treatment for lymphoma, and the brand has been going strong since 1999.
Yep.
Wow. Seeing it all together, I know all the parts of the history, but seeing it all together is just amazing. Ramy, do you remember how we first met?
I don't remember. I don't remember ever not knowing you. I feel like it's been many years.
Before my husband of now.
Yes, I knew you when you were single, before you had your daughter. Early days.
When I was the dating diva, when I was doing beauty writing as well as magazine writing and being an editor. And I think, and he's going to love this, I think our good friend, David Hochberg,
A mutual friend, yes,
who initially connected us.
Yes.
And so David he was at the time in the 90s working with Lillian Vernon's company, and Lillian is his mother, and he was handling PR. Mm-hmm. And he had asked me if I would be interested in doing a story on the women there. And so I wrote a story, it's my maiden name, working on their good looks. And this was from 1994.
Wow.
And Ramy has had a lot of experience working with models, B, regular women earlier on, and also celebrities. So can you talk a little bit about the perspective of, when you're dealing with a real person makeover and getting them in the chair? How does that go?
Sure. So, when you're dealing with an average person, meaning not a celebrity or a supermodel. I had, for example, someone today who is an average person with a business who is shooting a commercial, and she had me do her makeup. But she's, she's not a celebrity. I feel like real people are, they have a goal in mind, but they put themselves in your hands. Like, they're like, you're the expert. There's a certain reverence, they're like, you're the pro, whatever you think is best. However, that said, real people also have their own issues about their own appearance. So, very often, just as I'm about to, let's say, apply a coral lipstick on someone, they'll say, oh, I was told 25 years ago never to apply, never to use coral lipsticks. Like someone at a department store did my makeup and said, avoid coral. And here it is many years later. And I'm like, you've changed, styles have changed, lipstick formulas have changed. You have to keep an open mind, but so usually part of my job is sort of like guiding them. And usually if you reason with people and when they see how good it looks, they, usually we meet in the middle and everybody's happy.
Well,
Um,
I have to tell you, a color lipstick that I think goes for everyone is my favorite red is Ramy red.
yes, it's a great color.
Okay, going back to it, I know what you mean because back in the 90s, color wheels were so big, and you would
Yes.
go to like Mary Kay and they'd give you a makeover and they'd
You-
say, never, like what you said, never wear
You're a
orange.
winter, you're a summer,
And then they would come to you and, maybe the seasons change and they're
right,
paler in the winter or their hair color or something's different.
right.
And you're just doing it based on your knowledge and your judgment and figuring out not only what to do for them, but what works for the page. And that,
Many,
I think, is where your craft, really comes
yes,
maker.
many times on people when I use a color on them, let's say a blush or a foundation or a lipstick, and they'll say, "In a million years, I never would have selected that color." And I hear that so often that it's something that would not draw them. They would never think to try, and then they love it. And that's the thing. That's why sometimes it's good to go. I say, get the blueprint, go to someone, go to an expert and get it done. And you really learn a lot. When I went to school in Australia, to beauty school, there was a young woman in class with me, and she was very pretty. And I said, "Oh, do you want to be a makeup artist also?" And she said, "No, I'm a flight attendant, and I love my career." And I said, "So why are you here?" And she said, "Every couple of years, I take a makeup class to learn new products, new colors, new techniques." And I remember I said to her, "You're going to be beautiful the rest of your life," because that attitude is so correct. She just had an open mind and was open to trying new things.
That's a beautiful attitude, and it's so interesting. A lot of creative people, and you're certainly a creative person, start out as lawyers.
To my
So
credit, I did drop out.
you dropped that. Okay, okay. You're like not the second person this week who's talked about doing that. So that's really interesting. So when you're putting someone in the chair and you're assessing them, you're also assessing their eyebrows. Now,
Yes,
we have to just talk about this shoot because there's something that's standing out. It's not just the makeup, it's the hairdos, right?
yes, yeah.
And that's
Well,
the hairdos of the time. I mean, what and how did that affect,
did you freeze up?
that? And then you're wearing like a red lipstick. Isn't that gonna pull focus all different places?
Yes, but like we were discussing earlier, even though like the photo shoot might be from years ago and it was a before and after, and the hair looks kind of, like not hairstyles we would have today. They look kind of dated, maybe, but the after pictures, they still look way better than in the before pictures, which
That
was, of course, the objective at the time.
that is
Yeah.
really true. And the way, I wrote this piece, so I used a lot of the framing. I talk about in writing that gets noticed, service-oriented pieces. You have a
Mhm.
problem, you have a solution, and then you talk about the steps, the makeup steps that were done. So
Mhm.
let's say somebody's in your chair and it's a real person. How would you start with doing it?
Well, usually I'll ask them, what's their objective? Like, why are you here? Some people are just going to a party and want to have their makeup done. Other people want a lesson. And I've even had, it's been kind of interesting because obviously you'll get someone young who's like maybe right out of college and they're going to the working world and they want a polished look. And so they'll come for a makeup lesson. That makes sense. But I get women up into their 80s, and they say, "I've never known how to do makeup, and I decided it's time that I learn." And I love that, it really is never too late. It's like they just want to do something to lift themselves up and to look their best. And I think it's great.
That
So
So what
I
about editorially? Like, how do you make something, because now you're talking to the person in the chair, but you're also talking to the editor, right?
right,
Because I would talk to the makeup artist and I'd say, we want, a real transformation here.
right.
So we're gonna make some, significant moves. What do you
Yes.
suggest? So editorial now, how would
Mhm.
you translate to the page?
Well, again, as you said, usually I know why I'm there. Like I know what the article is going to be about. I know that they want to, I did one for like Teen Vogue where it was we gave makeovers to a whole cheerleading squad. So
I
these
love
were, I mean, they were teens,
it.
and but we wanted to make them look age appropriate and but look more sophisticated, and so they tell me beforehand what needs to be done, and then I feel like you generally have a free hand. They might in the middle of the shoot say, "Oh, make it a little more dramatic," or tone it down a little bit, and you just you would do that accordingly. um, yeah, but I feel like, we all know what the end result we're looking for, that we want it to be a dramatic before and after. We want the reader, you want to wow the reader, and you want to give good information about how to get from point A to point B. And
Now,
then,
I have
you
to
know,
ask,
yeah,
have to, and so you're known for your brows, and you used to do my
yeah,
brows back in the day,
yeah.
City. Would you go with a tweezer
I
to
was never without it. I was, literally, back then I wouldn't go to a party without like tweezers, scissors, and a small brush in my pocket, and often end up doing everybody's eyebrows at the party. Um, but
oh,
yes, and a lot of the makeovers. I mean, I have tear sheets from Real Simple magazine where it's like 5 pages of addressing different eyebrow problems. What to do if the brows are too heavy, what to do if they're too thin, what to do if they're too round.
why don't we
You know,
look at one of those? Why don't we
sure.
yeah, that'd be great.
Um, okay.
I love one of the things while you're looking for it.
It's kind of heavy, but
Oh, yeah,
I will try to hold it up. So,
the old
uh,
portfolio.
yes, but it's a mess. Okay.
I think dust is coming
It literally, okay. I think the page I wanted just fell on the floor. Um, but
really.
okay, no, no, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So that was the cover, and this was the opening sequence, the opening page.
That's
And
beautiful.
then,
That's a Ramy brow. That's a Ramy brow.
yes. And then
Yes.
here you can really see here in the first couple of pages the different issues and what I did to fix them.
Oh, I love see the problem
Yeah.
solution. That always
Yes.
works with
And
beauty.
so I've done a lot of shoots like that were eyebrow centric, but then also makeup centric. Like in other words, how to do a 15-minute makeover with makeup, how to refresh someone's look. I did one once with Red Book with Cheryl Kramer.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was a quick, dramatic 15-minute makeovers for Red Book. I was there just to transform someone's eyebrows. That was one of the quick 15-minute makeovers, was to just get your eyebrows done correctly. And then
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
and then they had someone who like cut off all her hair, and someone else who had her makeup done, and like that.
I want to ask you about eyebrows because that's great saying that, taking that dive. I want to know, like, how do eyebrows properly tweezed or shaped
Mhm.
transform a face?
It's the joke is they say it's the one thing you can get in shape without exercise is eyebrows. and I love that expression. But it really does make a big difference. My slogan for Ramy Cosmetics is minimum makeup, maximum impact, which I really believe in. I feel people should notice you, not your makeup. And
Yes.
with that minimalist approach, very in line with that is if your eyebrows are good, you don't need as much makeup. It's like even if you wear no makeup, especially if you wear no makeup, actually, if your eyebrows are on point, it makes a big difference in the face. It lifts, it opens up the eyes. It can make you look younger. It can make you look more sophisticated. Um, and the way I do it is I always align it with the bone structure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's the secret of my success, really. And even when I do microblading now for like the last 8 years or so, I align it, I get people that have no eyebrows at all for various reasons, either from chemo or alopecia, and I follow their bone structure.
Right.
That's why it always looks natural, because they might say, "Oh, I want my tail to go up like that." And I'm like, "No, you don't, because your bone structure is over here. You want to follow your bones, you
Oh,
know, it,
that's
and
that's what when it looks bad, like if the brow
right.
above it or
Right, and they're looking at a photo, like, it might look okay in a still photo, but when your face is animated, it looks terrible, and, people
that's
don't realize it, and that's where I can guide them sometimes.
and this product, Neutral Impact, it's eyeshadow and brow filler, and I was
Yeah,
thinking because you do so much work to help, women and people with cancer because
yes,
you went through your own story and you
right.
wrote a book. Can you talk about that from
Yeah, my career was taking off and everything was going great, and I was makeup director at this big Fifth Avenue salon and became known for eyebrows and, um, developed their makeup line, and, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was 31, and I went to work every day through 5 months of chemo, and then I was about to start daily radiation, and the salon fired me, telling me, "You're not the pretty boy we hired." And I was like, "Okay." And, so I went to work for myself, and I did a mailing to my clients that I'm available at my private studio, and, God bless, people followed, and then I had been written up in Vogue, while I was at that job in an article about eyebrow obsession, and I didn't realize it actually for many years. I never really thought about it, but I realize now that article kind of launched me as, like, the brow guy, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was such a blessing because I went to work for myself, and I didn't have a publicist initially, and every article about eyebrows in any magazine, newspaper, website, there I was because Vogue said so. And, so it was a godsend, and it sent a lot of people my way, and I went into business for myself. I started Ramy Cosmetics, and a year later, I launched it at Bergdorf Goodman, and just as I got the counter at Bergdorf, the salon that fired me went out of business. So it was very karmic,
karma?
and I
Karma's a
get to tell that
thing.
story.
That's a great story. That is
Yeah.
a great story. And I had a column for New Body. This was 1992. And I believe I interviewed you for this story, for some other stories.
Yeah.
We would talk quite often about beauty, and I
Yeah.
would come down to your salon and hang out with you and your beautiful white cat.
Yes.
Say his name. Ar-
Arlo.
Oh,
Arlo passed about 3 years ago. I now have the beautiful white cat, Astro.
you like they work with the decor,
Yeah,
right?
they match. Yeah.
And so and you've worked with a lot of celebrities also. Can you
Uh,
share I know, sometimes it's hard, but can you share
yeah.
some of your celebrity stories?
Sure. I've worked with people like Britney Spears and Cher and Rihanna and, Taylor Swift, and, like, recently when Taylor Swift got married, I was inundated with people messaging me wondering if I was doing the makeup for her wedding.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, if I were, I wouldn't be able to say I was doing it. And
Uh,
I also didn't wanna say, "No, I'm not doing it." So, I would just say, "I can neither confirm nor deny," and keep a little mystery going.
absolutely. So can you is there any story that you can share about working with celebrity or even like, are they different, obviously, than the
I'll tell you
other
the biggest difference between working with a celebrity and a average person
uh-huh.
is, an average person will say, "I like it like this, do it like that." They kind of wanna dictate very often how to do the makeup, which if they're here for a makeup lesson, it sort of defeats the purpose of the lesson if I'm just gonna do their makeup the way they always do their makeup. So I have to tell them that and say, "Do you wanna learn something new, or do you just want me to apply it the way you always apply it?" And then they usually kind of will allow me to do what I wanna do. With celebrities, they're very, they get their makeup done often, and I feel like they're just very they just let you do what you want. Like, in other words, you're the expert. I bow to your expertise. I don't really care. Occasionally, they'll say something, and I found with celebrities, they're usually very, very correct because they get their makeup done so often.
Yeah.
They'll say things like, oh, I need like a heavier eyeliner, or they want their eyeliner done in a way that I usually don't like to do. Like, I don't think it's flattering, or it might make the eyes look smaller. But I will accommodate them. And I find that they're often right because they really know their face and they really know what works and what doesn't work.
Fascinating. So I was the associate beauty editor at Woman's World in the
Mm,
90s before I went into becoming an editor and then editor-in-chief at magazines. And I would look at the lookbook when I would select, this wasn't real people, this was, models from
mhm,
Ford, from all the different agencies. And so I would look at the books and I would select the model. And I had a column called Beauty Tips as well. That was a part of, I don't know if it's in this spread. It was usually in the spreads. And so I would select sometimes different models, but this was like one spread, one girl.
mhm,
And the little post-its, I love post-its, I would put them on the model faces and then I would go over it with somebody else in my department. And then I would call it in. I'd say, I'm interested in, this girl. And there are a lot of girls who are models who worked with the magazine very regularly. We knew that they were, Woman's World had 7 deadlines a week. It was 7,
uh-huh,
it was every week.
mhm,
And I had to make sure that the person that we were hiring, who was a model, not a real person,
mm,
really knew the job, could just
right.
go with a long day, could do the multiple product shots, but like you don't do it like this. You do it like you're putting it on your eye and then you're
Uh,
capturing that. And so, when you were working with models, how did that even differ from the celebrities, or was it similar?
With models, I find most especially, they have almost no opinion. I mean, if it's like a photo shoot, like I did, like the James Jeans ad campaign with the Victoria's Secret supermodel Candace Swainpole,
Oh,
and yeah, and, when I first met her, she had no
the way,
makeup on, and I just thought, "Oh, she's a cute girl, nothing great." You put the makeup and the lighting, and she's such a talented model. Like, I mean, she really understood the assignment. She didn't just give one look, she was really talented. And but as far as, the photographer would tell me with the makeup, like what to do, how to change it up, like make the eye more dramatic, he would just give me, tell me the look he's going for, and I would do it, and she would bring it to life. But the model herself didn't have any say in the makeup. She's there as a professional, just as I'm there as a professional, and the photographer's there, and she's there to do a job, and she will make work whatever we,
yes.
want to do. Yeah. And so that's the real difference with models. They, every so often you get someone's like, I don't like, nyeh, 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 nyeh." Well, then don't be a model,
Yeah, then
You
they're not
know?
gonna work much, particularly for, the women's magazines.
Yeah.
In terms of working with, these models, there were some that were very young,
Yes, like
particularly when I
very.
would go to photo shoots in California, and we
Mhm.
would travel the country for our makeovers. We had kind of a section where we would go to Florida, or we would go to California, and we'd rent a Winnebago, and we'd go all over the place, and have the stylists and myself who was writing the copy and helping with the propping and all the different people. That's how we would travel. And then we would meet different candidates. If it was makeovers, some people wrote in. This was before social media. There was no social media. There was no iPhones.
A lot more legwork involved.
It was a lot of work. And so people would write in and I would look at that. But a lot of times, here's my little secret. My friends, colleagues, and people I knew through the business who are open to a makeover, I knew who they were. I knew they were reliable. I knew that they understood for me what the drill was.
Right.
And they were some of the best makeover candidates.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun, fun days, though. I don't
Yes.
know if you remember ever doing a shoot where you have to be up with the sun
Of
before the
course. Oh my God. Many up at
like,
4 in
what's
the
the
morning.
golden there's, like I don't know if it's called the golden hour, it's, like, the best hour for the light, right?
Yeah.
It's
Is that when
before
the sun is going down or when it's coming up? I think it's when it's
I
going
think
down.
there's both. We
Yeah.
would get there I'd have to get there at, like, 3 in the morning to deal with the props and have it ready, and then people would come on set at 5 in the morning for those photo shoots, and then, like,
Yeah.
I think it would start as soon as the sun came up, but then there was also the golden hour, like, the best lighting, which was
Yeah.
when the sun was that's why it's such long days on the
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah.
Did you travel? Did you travel a lot
I did
for
travel, but not a whole lot. I really most of my work was in New York, in
yeah,
New York City. I've done some stuff in California, but not a lot. Because I had my career, but I also had my clientele that
yeah,
I saw very regularly. So I really I
I
was
was one
a
of
little
them.
bit of a diva about it, like the work had to come to me, and I was very fortunate that I was able to make that happen. Like I didn't have to run all over the place, to
You
do
were
it.
always so good. I remember I could just, reach out to you. I think I called you and I'd be like, "Ramy, I need a
And
quote," and you
I
were just
you
like
know,
that.
when I did have publicists, they would always say to me they loved me because I was very responsive. And I always had, and I understood again that they don't want to hear that the look for spring is fabulous. They need a real quote that is new information that they can use. And I always would respond and respond quickly. And so that I think that helped get a lot of press because they knew they wouldn't have to chase me. I remember once in the early days, Sarah Brown from Vogue called me and she wanted, a quote for an article she was working on. And we played a little bit of phone tag, but I called her back right away. But, we just played a little phone tag. And when we finally got on the phone, she was so appreciative that I was making the effort to get back to her. And I'm like, you don't have to thank me. I thank you. I want to be in Vogue. And she said, you would be amazed how we have to chase some people of note, some, hair people, celebrity hairstylists and people like that. We have to chase them to include them in an article. And I was certainly not going to be an obstacle to myself. So,
I mean, I would, I was writing about beauty. I was in the beauty world. When I would go to the different places, I would get my hair cut or colored or something because it was, they wanted to show the wares to me, for
sure. And you have to work your perks, I always say.
exactly. And so, it was sort of proof of concept for them, right?
Mhm.
So if they do a good job, if I like the haircut or whatever, it didn't keep consistency because I tried different places. But then
Yeah.
I learned to love consistency. I was
Right.
consistent with you with
Thank
the
you.
I was. But I was interviewing Orbet for a story, working on their where was it? Here it is. I wanna look like a star. This
Oh,
was
yeah.
for American Woman magazine, where I was senior editor, and this was 1995.
He was so great, and he was so nice.
He was so nice. He was so, like, he had his little hat, he was besties with Elizabeth Taylor, and, so I go there, and he's, "Sit in the chair." He wasn't gonna do me, he had somebody else do me.
Mhm.
They put Rami red streaks in my hair.
Oh, wow.
Now, I was brunette, as you know. You knew me as we met over 30 years ago, I was a brunette. And, so it was a brunette with these red streaks.
Wow.
It was a look. I remember going home and taking, like, a little scissor and, like, I had very fine hair, so I would fine tooth out the red. So I
Wow.
blended it. I was early with
Wow.
I probably could have been a hair person in another But stories like that, like what was Rihanna like? I mean, if you could say one
She
thing.
was super nice. I really like I thought we'd be having brunch the next weekend. She was so friendly. Like, like
Did you get that a lot? Because I've seen that too. I've
yeah,
seen
you do have some where you really do feel like you bonded with the
yes, you're
person and like, "Oh, I'm in," like, so with Rihanna, I very much felt that. She was and you could tell she was a real boss also, and we had a very, very long day together, and, she works very hard. I have to say, many of them really do, and people don't realize that. People think, "Oh, it's glamorous," and, you get your makeup done, and you get to go on TV or, do interviews, but, it's actually a lot of hard work that people, I think, the average person doesn't realize. And I remember she was leaning on me, like, I have pictures of her just, like, hanging on me because she was so tired, frankly. And I remember telling her in between things, I was like, "You're working so hard. They're really working you." And she's like, "You think so?" And I'm like, "Yes, I think so." I was like, "You need to put your foot down."
is
Of
that
course,
the
now she's a billionaire and I'm not, so what do I know? I'm like
you're okay. You're okay. Is she is that the picture you have on your website of her?
Yes, yeah, that was that day, and I have other pictures with her from that same day, but yeah, she was very warm and very, I was with her literally by her side the whole day like I was her little best friend. She would just, like, pull me along, and
Did you
and,
did you have to sign NDAs? Because I
in
never
her case, I
got
did not. In With Britney Spears, I signed an NDA that was like, I've signed mortgages that had less paperwork than that NDA. Like, for real, and they take away your phone also before you enter the room so you can't take
uh-oh.
pictures and stuff, but,
I have
that's her people, that wasn't her. She herself was very nice.
I've never, for any of my contracts, any of my business ventures, any of my jobs, any of my interactions, I've never signed an NDA. Hmm.
Really? I have but well, actually, Britney Spears was a good example. I signed this massive, I mean, it was really, like, insane how much that before they even let you into the room with her, and,
Yes.
that was we did a big makeover for her. Rita Hazan took her hair from black to, like, back to pale blonde, and this was her return after having her 2nd child, and it was her David Letterman appearance when she announced her divorce from Kevin Federline. So it was
Yeah.
like this like Britney's back kind of,
Wow.
like, she had her figure back and she was back to blonde and I did her makeup and her eyebrows. And so after that aired, my makeup on her was on the cover of People magazine 2 weeks in a row. And I got so many phone calls from every possible newspaper around the world, every magazine. I swear to God, it went on for about a year and a half. People wanted to know, what did I do to make her look so great? And thank God I used all Ramy cosmetics on her. And
Brilliant.
I rode that into the sunset, and I did every interview and I gave all the information. And I think the reason for the NDA was not to prevent that, because
Right.
that's still press for her also, and it was all positive. I think the NDA is to prevent you from speaking out of turn if you see something that they wouldn't want the public to know, there's something or to embarrass her in some way. It's to prevent that. And I would never do that. I would never, go to the media with something negative. I feel that would be unprofessional.
Yes, and, it's a very private moment when
Yes.
you're barefaced, with
Yeah.
whatever your skin is, whatever there's no filter, there's no anything
Yeah.
with somebody, so it's a very vulnerable, I could imagine, situation
I
for
always feel like there's like a sacred bond because they're trusting you. And with someone who their face is their fortune, I mean, if you're a celebrity, if you have a public image, they know their image, they know the business of it. They're trusting you with that.
yeah,
And I take that very, very seriously.
yes, yes.
They have to look amazing and, no nonsense. Like, it has to be on point.
Did you
And
Yeah, no, so you dealt with most of the names also from the '90s, like, I
yeah.
had Love
90s and the early 2000s,
every
2010s, like that era was my heavy celebrity era.
of the era, yeah. I remember having tea at the Plaza with, Georgette Mossbacher. Do you
Oh,
remember?
wow. Sure.
She was a firecracker.
Yeah.
She was like, "This isn't a good table. Let's move the table." She's calling the people up, like, take char I was like, "Wow, what a boss," you know?
What a boss. Yeah.
She just, like, took charge. I felt like I admired that in,
Yes.
people in business people. From the male side, it could get too much, but from
It
a
could get a
woman,
little
it
toxic.
was refreshing.
I
It was
I with Rihanna, I sat next to her when she was doing interviews, and they bring the interviewer to the table, and they interview her, and then they leave, and then another person comes from another publication, and I was seated right next to her. And again, very long day. And then at one point, the person who was interviewing her brought up a charity, but it was like really like an unpleasant subject, like
okay.
really kind of taboo. And I saw Rihanna made like a little signal with her finger, like I don't even just like a little like that, like a little something. And the assistant rushed right over and rushed the interviewer away.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
we're pressed for time, gotta go next. And I
Yeah.
was like,
And
wow, she's
you
a
know what?
boss.
They know how to do it. They
Yeah, they have it down to a science.
They really have it down to a science. And so what's the difference between there's editorial makeup
Mhm.
that we talked about, there's real people makeup, there's, doing the makeup for models. What about for television? How is that different? Did it have to be because they say I mean, I look at the videos of me from the '90s, and I had this dark lipstick, and I have little lips, and I was
Hindsight is always 20/20. Well, on television, it could be a lot of different things. It can be, I once did makeovers with Robert Verdi for all the newswomen on, I think it was MSNBC.
Yes.
I mix it up with CNBC. I think it was
He
MSNBC.
I just have to tell you, you know how you and I have a million connections, including, like, a former, agent of both of ours, the beloved Jack Scoville, may he rest
Yes.
in peace, and so Robert Verdi was, like, my good friend, one of my best friends' good
So
friend.
I'll
So
tell you
it's
a funny story with him. I was doing eyebrows for Betsy Johnson's runway show, but I was just doing the eyebrows for the models. I wasn't doing the makeup, but I was
good.
backstage, and Robert Verdi was backstage interviewing people for, one of his TV shows. And he interviewed me and he was great. And I was like, so nice to meet you after the interview. I like shook his hand. I said, so nice to meet you. He goes, Ramy, we worked together at Henry Bendel's years ago. I didn't remember. But apparently we'd known each other for a million years.
He would shop for my friend, and he'd bring my friend Randy, and he'd bring her stuff.
Mhm.
He'd get it from Bendel's or
Yeah.
other places. Later, he had other,
He's
that
awesome. He's one of the good ones.
that is so funny. In the
Yeah.
beginning, I don't know if people heard when I said, "Oh, we met back in the day," but we
Yes.
met through our friend, I think, David Hochberg, and we
Right.
were both in the same industry, you and
Mhm.
I. You're from the beauty side, I'm from the editorial side, and just, it's just been such a pleasure to know you back in the day of my magazine, my beauty editor days, and then later with the beauty book that I co-authored, and even before I met my husband when I was the dating diva, like, you
Um,
have been through everything.
Amazing. We were
Like,
child prodigies.
right, never let anyone forget that. You know how Britney started so young,
Yes, yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I wrote a piece about her that in the just a few years ago when the conservatorship was happening. I wrote a whole, like, investigative piece for The Independent about, what was going on and what should happen and all that, and that, like, everything's just dropped off. So
Yeah.
I don't write about her anymore, but fascinating. study on humankind and people, and you have to surround yourself, I think, with good people. That's
Yes.
really something that throughout my 30-year history in publishing and in the media world and in the, the tough he sheets, each other world, the kind, the good, the empathetic people that I stayed connected with, those are the people who, have integrity and go on to do things of value in the world, like yourself. You did a
Thank
beautiful,
you.
you're welcome. You did a beautiful book for that helped women do their makeovers when they had cancer. Can you talk
Yes.
about
So
that?
I wrote that book proposal when I myself was going through cancer. And then it just took me so many years to get it published. I mean, I came through cancer it was in 1998, and the book was finally published in 2005. And I went through a lot of terrific agents. That's how, when I knew Jack Scoville, who tried to get me a publishing deal, I was with William Morris. I was, with Charlotte Sheedy Agency before that. And I finally, my still current literary agent is Linda Connor. And she was the one who finally got me a publisher. She got me more than one offer and then, parlayed it into a better deal for me. And then she chased me for literally 10 years to do the second book, which was How to Fake Real Beauty, which was for everyone. And I'm so glad she did because I'm so proud of that book. It's really a good book, and that came out in 2015, and is still in publication, still holds up today. So I'm very proud of it.
I met her at a holiday party for Woman's World in the 90s. She had done a cat book with someone. Does that ring a bell?
I don't remember about a cat book, but she's done so many books.
Yeah,
She's got
this one
such a
was her own.
oh,
I
her own. I don't
She
remember.
co-authored a book about cat. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I'm not gonna,
That rings a bell, actually, yes.
right, right.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so there was like a little part of a party, and so that's how I met her. And then
Uh-huh.
later found out that she was an agent, and we had other connections through my then agent at the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
not Jack, a different one.
yeah. She comes off very tough, but she's really great at her job.
Yeah, no,
She makes for a great agent. Yeah.
and your book, can you show the cover? Can
Oh,
you?
sure, I've got one here.
Yeah, helps so many people.
So, this was the first book. It's a very mouthy title. It's Ramy Gafni's Beauty Therapy: The Ultimate Guide to Looking and Feeling Great While Living with Cancer. But it's
Right.
all about not just the physical, but also about what I call beauty therapy, which is anything you can do to make yourself feel better. Whether it's doing something physical, like getting a manicure, or doing some shoe shopping, anything that where you're taking time out for yourself. And throughout the book, I have celebrity quotes. Everyone I encountered or worked with, every celebrity, I said, I'm working on a book for cancer patients. What's your favorite beauty ritual when you're having a bad day?
Oh
And
my,
I've so sprinkled throughout the book is quotes from a lot of our favorite celebrities. So that was kind of awesome. And this was the second book, the more recent, How to Fake Real Beauty. And very proud of it. I really put my knowledge into this book. Like every question that I've been asked by clients and both celebrity and non-celebrity, the answer is in this book. So,
oh my gosh. But now, do you have Rami read with you? I just want to show the
yes, I have
show
a little beat up one here, but
yeah,
it's,
mine's
yeah,
beat up too. It
this,
is, people, it's the
yeah,
prettiest red. I can't wear red. It's too red is too
it's
garish looking on me, but this red,
It's a
brown red,
brown-based red. This was in the New York Times as one of the top 40 lipstick shades of all time. So I can never discontinue it because people would
ever,
kill me. But
ever.
it's really a very, very wearable
Yeah,
shade. Like no matter your skin tone, no matter your hair and eye color, it will look good on you. It's one of those really like a no-brainer color, I call it. Like you don't have to think about it, it's gonna look good.
it's so good. And you're
So
always innovating, right? Like you
I'm
have,
That's my most fun thing I'm doing now, skincare where anti-aging is, my focus for myself more than anything else. So I always joke with friends that I'm like, it's going to be good because I'm doing it for myself now. And like, here, this is one of my tight gel. It's organic, it's vegan,
Yeah.
um, it's completely clear. I don't know if you can see it. And it's this gel that I people use it during the day. I like to wear it at night before I go to sleep and got rid of the bags under my eyes. That's
Oh,
my issue is that I developed bags under my eyes and it was bugging the hell out of me. So
yeah,
I do the tight on my whole face and neck, and the next day I look great.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Back when I was
it's good.
doing beauty at Woman's World, I go into the beauty closet and I would test the products. Like if we were
So
writing,
fun.
it was fun, but if I was writing about skincare, well, it came to testing glycolic acid products. Back
Oh,
in the day, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but those products had way more glycolic acid
and it
than
should.
day than it should. And I developed rosacea from it.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do. So I talked to Marina Valmy, who's Christine Valmy's daughter,
Mhm.
and said, she had an accent. She was like, "You
Mhm.
must put raw honey on your face."
Oh,
I actually wrote about it for Yahoo. But so later, I used I said, "Why raw honey? It's antibacterial, it will balance the pH in your skin, and you can use nothing else." So I used raw honey and I didn't have to get any kind of medication or anything. It
and it
got
cleared up?
of my rosacea.
Wow.
Yes, and so the experts really knew what they were doing. And but there was a danger also when you try a lot of products, right? I
Sure.
barely do anything. I'm not going to say cosmetic, but I barely do anything like on my skin, a little moisturizer
Yeah.
and then whatever. I don't even, I see 8-year-old girls doing like toners and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like,
way too much. People do overdo it. I mean, I do think there's some, you should address issues as they happen. I think it's good to exfoliate once in a while, get rid of the dead surface layer. A lot of times people come to me and they have like their skin just looks dry, like they have lines, but they're young, but they have lines. It's from dry skin. I can see the dead surface layer, and I'm like, just do a scrub like twice a week.
yeah,
And they're always like, oh, do I need Botox? Do I need fill? I'm like, no, you just need a scrub. Just exfoliate and then slap on a moisturizer if your skin is dry. That's it.
remember the
And
scrubs back in the day, though? They used to have like the
I love them.
drugstore scrub. Yes, but some of them have like sharp little pieces.
Walnut shells
Oh my
and
God.
yeah. I'm like, I always joke I want to exfoliate to the bone, like I like
Your skin could probably take it. I'm so
yeah, my skin's
sensitive.
pretty tough.
But
I still love those like Clarisonic brushes, like
oh my God, I
I
can.
love it. I want to exfoliate,
Well,
like
well, you look marvelous, darling, as they say. I have to address somebody did have a question
oh
um,
good.
that I just figured I'll mention it to you because I know that you're doing microblading now. What about
Yeah.
like permanent? That's like permanent form. What about
Microblading is semi-permanent.
semi-permanent?
I
Right.
mean, it lasts about 3 years.
What do you think about the tattoo? I have friends who've tattooed, under their eyes. I have not done that or
No,
any.
the reason I started doing microblading was in 2015, I was on Kelly Ripa's show. They brought me on to do Jerry O'Connell's eyebrows for a
Oh,
segment.
he has.
Yes. Yeah. And so while I was doing his eyebrows live in front of the audience, Kelly Ripa was interviewing me and she asked me about microblading. And at the time, I didn't know much about it. I lumped it in with tattooing. And I sort of famously am opposed to anything permanent on the eyebrows. So no tattooing and no permanent hair removal, like laser hair removal, because over the many years, I've seen so many people that have had permanent tattoo and it changes color, their face changes, the brow changes, and they're stuck, unless you can have it removed.
I always
Um, And same with laser removal. They accidentally took one eyebrow too far or too short, and the person is stuck with it. The hair never grows back. So I don't like anything permanent. And Kelly Ripa said to me, "What if it's semi permanent, like microblading?" And I said, "Well, if it's semi permanent, I guess that's okay, but go to someone who comes highly recommended." And after the show aired, I was inundated, people emailing me and messaging me that, "Oh, if you did microblading, I'd get it done." So I was like, "Well, it's interesting to learn something new after all these years." So I went and I learned and I got my license and I started doing it. And at first, I didn't love it because it's a lot of math, and I'm not a mathematical person, a lot of measuring. So I decided I need to try it the way I groom someone's eyebrow. I don't measure. I look at you. I see what needs to be done. I always say it's like the hairs that need to be plucked are like fluorescent green. And I need to do the microblading that way, just by my eye. And so I got a volunteer who was willing to risk it because, to get a free microblading.
It wasn't
And
your sister or your mother, was it?
no, 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 no. It was a client who wanted microblading. And I explained the risk. I said, I'm just going to try to do it the way I do it when I groom your brows without measuring. But she had some eyebrow. They were sparse, but she had like an outline to follow, like a template to follow. And we did it, and it was the best result ever. Incredibly natural. It looked incredible. She was thrilled. I was thrilled. And once I started doing it that way,
Yeah.
in like an organic way, I call it freestyle, without a ruler and everything, I've had great results ever since. The only
I
time I measure if someone has absolutely no hair at all, then just to be sure that you make them with some symmetry.
Yeah, I mean, you remember I had very thin eyebrows. They're still on the thin side, but I had them. I didn't know you did microblading, but this was before I had them microbladed,
Yeah.
and like it's been a while,
Mhm.
quite a while, and then I just fill in,
Right.
I
Yeah.
need to fill in, yeah, because I don't like pains. But
Mine are partially microbladed. I microblade myself.
they look they look great,
Yeah.
and I remember the one thing I remember, I mean, I remember a lot about, being in your chair, but you were always so gentle, like, there was
Thank you.
never like, "Ow, ow, ow," like, I was never afraid, and we would talk the whole time
Yeah.
about industry, about business, about
Yeah.
mutual friends,
It's like a
that
nice visit.
we always had so much fun, and then before I married him, you even got to meet Werner, so
Yes.
remember? He came
Yeah.
to
I
did
do
you bring
remember very well. Yeah.
and then did you meet Crystal? Did Crystal come one time? I'm trying to
That
think.
I don't recall if I've met her. It might have been when she was much younger,
Maybe when she was
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't
Bert might
I
have
don't
brought her
remember.
something like that.
Yeah.
But Rami, I think we're out of time, but this has been
Oh, wow.
I know, it was you would come I mean, every time we talk, it goes like this, and I'm
Yes.
so happy that I was able to share you with
Thank
my
you.
Substack audience and your Substack audience, and I
Thank
hope
you.
everyone, follows. We'll have a link to the video. My next, Musings on magazines is gonna be a fashion expert joining us in
Mm.
August 12th at 3 p.m. this time. So follow along and follow me on Substack and follow Rami, and you'll see more of my series. And absolutely, I'm so happy that everyone was here today. And Rami, thank you, thank you, thank you. As always a
Such a
pleasure.
pleasure. Thank you, Estelle. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.